You are 19 years old when a military officer walks into the repair shop where you work beside the Volga. Until this moment, your biggest problem today has been getting an old tractor engine to start. Outside, barges move slowly along the river. Somewhere beyond them, a city called Stalingrad is fighting for its life. You have heard the radio reports. German armies are moving east, but war still feels like something happening to other people. Then the officer says your name, and every tool in the room seems to stop moving. He places the paper in your hands. You are to report the following morning. The Soviet army needs men. Stalingrad needs them even more. That evening, your mother cooks potatoes and speaks about everything except the war. She asks whether your boots fit, whether you packed socks, whether you remembered your coat. Your 11-year-old sister, Katya, disappears beside the stove and returns carrying something blue. It is a scarf she knitted herself. One end is longer than the other. She wraps it around your neck and tells you the river will be cold. Then she gives you an old family photograph already bent at the corners. On the back, she has written, "Come back before the thaw." You laugh and promise that you will. Neither of you understands how long one winter can become. The railway platform the next morning is crowded with young men carrying small bags and pretending not to be afraid. Your mother hugs you once. Katya tightens the blue scarf beneath your chin. As the train begins moving, Katya runs beside it until she can no longer keep up. You watch her disappear, then reach immediately for the photograph. The man opposite you notices. He introduces himself before you can put it away. His name is Misha. He is 20, from Moscow, and appears physically incapable of remaining silent. Within 10 minutes, he has told you about his neighborhood, his mother's soup, and every girl who ever ignored him. Then he pulls a tiny harmonica from his pocket and plays 3 terrible notes. "If we survive," he says, "I will learn a 4th. Your training is short because Stalingrad does not have time for long lessons. They put a rifle in your hands and teach you how to load, clean, crawl, dig, and obey. You crawl through mud until your elbows ache and march until your boots feel 2 sizes too small. That is where you meet Sergeant Sokolov. He is 35 and already looks like a man who has spent several lifetimes at war. Misha complains that his rifle weighs more than a door. Sokolov looks at him and says, "Then become stronger than the door." Nobody laughs until Sokolov turns away. Several days later, trucks carry you toward the eastern bank of the Volga. The closer you get, the darker the sky becomes. Then you finally see Stalingrad. Whole districts burn beneath a wall of smoke. Even from across the river, the air tastes of ash. Boats travel west carrying ammunition and soldiers. The boats returning east carry wounded men. Misha stops talking. Sokolov studies the burning skyline. We cross tonight. After darkness, 30 men climb into a small boat. You sit low, rifle against your chest, blue scarf hidden inside your coat. Halfway across, artillery begins falling around the river. A column of water rises beside you and rains across the deck. Misha grips the boat and whispers, "I should have learned the 4th note first." You touch the photograph inside your coat. Come back before the thaw. Then the boat reaches Stalingrad. Your first shelter is the cellar of an apartment building that no longer has most of its apartments. Half a staircase hangs above nothing. The basement smells of damp brick, smoke, wet wool, and men who have stopped asking when they will leave. Sokolov explains that there is no proper front line here. The Germans may hold the building beside you. Sometimes they may hold the floor above you. A staircase can become a border. A hallway can become a battlefield. Misha studies the rats in the cellar and says even they look experienced. That night, you learn the city never truly becomes quiet. Somewhere, a rifle cracks. Somewhere else, artillery answers. You sleep with your boots on. The next morning, Sokolov sends your squad toward a ruined printing building. A German machine gun has been firing from the second floor. You crawl through bricks until the dust coats your tongue. Misha crawls beside you, harmonica pressing against his pocket. Sokolov waits, raises 3 fingers, then 2, then 1. A grenade explodes inside the doorway. You run through smoke before fear can convince your legs to stop. Paper floats through the room like dirty snow. A German soldier appears behind an overturned table. Gunfire fills the room, then, almost immediately, it stops. Your hands shake so badly you almost drop the rifle. Misha looks at the destroyed printing press. I always hated reading. You both laugh harder than the joke deserves. Weeks pass, and Stalingrad begins changing color. Dust becomes frost. Mud becomes ice. Your thin uniform disappears beneath a heavy greatcoat. Water freezes inside metal cups. Bread arrives in pieces small enough to count before you eat them. At night, Misha finally takes out the harmonica. He plays the same 3 notes. Nobody complains anymore. You show Misha Katya's photograph. He turns it over and studies your sister's message. Good, he says. You cannot die. You have orders. For a moment, even Sokolov smiles. Then artillery begins again. The ceiling trembles. Everyone becomes silent. Your unit moves towards the factory district. Steel beams rise from the snow like the bones of enormous machines. There are no intact windows and almost no intact walls. You defend one workshop that does not even have a roof. Snow falls directly onto your rifle. Across the street, movement appears behind broken windows. Everybody waits. Then, firing begins from both sides. A German tank appears beyond the factory gates. For several seconds, it seems impossibly large. Anti-tank fire strikes it from somewhere behind you. Nobody celebrates. Sokolov simply tells you to watch the windows. Then November arrives, and rumors begin moving through the cellars. More Soviet guns are appearing beyond the city. Trucks travel at night. Officers speak quietly over maps. Nobody tells you the plan. On November 19th, the guns answer for them. The earth shakes beneath your boots. For months, your only job has been to survive. Now, for the first time, the Germans are being pushed back. Hope enters Stalingrad carefully. Nobody trusts it yet. During an advance near a warehouse yard, machine gun fire suddenly cuts across the snow. The man ahead of you falls. Everyone dives for cover. Sokolov points toward a side entrance. You two, inside. You run through the snow bent almost double. Inside, the stairwell is dark and filled with dust. Misha reaches the landing first. Gunfire strikes the wall beside him. You throw a grenade into the office. The blast fills the corridor with smoke. When it clears, the machine gun is silent. Then you hear Misha say your name. He is sitting against the wall, one hand pressed against his coat. For once, he could not think of a joke. You pull him downstairs while Sokolov runs toward you. The aid station is across open ground. You put Misha's arm over your shoulder and start moving. A mortar lands nearby. When you look up, Misha is lying several feet away. His harmonica has fallen beside him. You crawl over and pick it up. Sokolov places a hand on your shoulder. Then he tells you to move. The battle does not stop because one person mattered to you. By January, the German army inside Stalingrad is trapped. The men surrendering no longer resemble the army that reached the Volga months earlier. They are cold, hungry, and exhausted. You look at one young prisoner and realize he cannot be much older than you. For a moment, uniforms seem less important than faces. Sokolov tells you to keep moving. On February 2nd, the battle is over. Nobody around you knows what victory is supposed to look like. There are no untouched streets in which to hold a parade. Sokolov gathers what remains of the squad. He begins reading the names of men who are not standing there. When he says Misha, your fingers close around the harmonica. Then you remember the train and 3 terrible notes. You reach for Katya's photograph. Come back before the thaw. Along the edge of the rubble, snow has begun to melt. Stalingrad ends, but your war does not. There will be other roads, other towns, and other winters before you see home. But nothing ever feels quite like that city again. Years later, the war finally ends. The train carries you east again. This time, you carry no rifle, only a faded photograph and a harmonica that does not belong to you. When the train reaches your town, your mother is waiting. Her hair is grayer than you remember. Beside her stands a girl who is suddenly not a little girl anymore. Katya sees the blue scarf first. She laughs. Then she starts crying. You take the photograph from your pocket and hand it back to her. The corners are damaged. The picture has almost faded, but her words are still there. Come back before the thaw. You did not. The snow melted many times before you reached home, but now you understand that Katya never really meant the weather. She meant, come back alive. Come back carrying something of the person who left. That night, you place Misha's harmonica inside a drawer beside the photograph. You never learn the 4th note. Some things are better remembered unfinished. Years later, people will call Stalingrad one of the great turning points of the Second World War. They will talk about armies, generals, maps, and numbers. You will remember smaller things. Frozen bread, a basement lit by 1 lantern, 3 terrible notes from a harmonica, and a blue scarf made by a little girl who believed promises could defeat winter. Maybe she was not completely wrong, because Stalingrad took many things from you, but it did not take your home.